founded Braintree and is now the COO at PayPal. Patrick Gauthier, who runs payments at Amazon. Patrick Collison, who founded Stripe with his brother. And Will Graylin, our next speaker. He's one of the really big brains in our space, and it's really great that he's here. Will is currently the founder and CEO of OV Loop, and it's an omni-channel conversational commerce platform that he's going to talk to us about. But before OV, he spent 3 years as global co-GM of Samsung Pay after Samsung acquired the Loop Pay offering, which is the MST capability that allows you to use your Samsung phone at any magstripe terminal and not require NFC. That was Will's. And he's done quite a few other things. He was also the founder and CEO of Roam Data, which was a white label supplier of Square-like mPOS solutions that was bought by Ingenico. Way Systems, the first pocket-sized mobile point-of-sale provider, acquired by Verifone, so he's an equal opportunity seller. And Untitled, a security software company, the first bitmap indexing web access management solution. So with that, I urge you to pay attention to this man, and here's Mr. Graylin.
So great to be here. How many of you guys are financial institutions that are here? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, a few. How many merchants and enterprises? Okay, a few. And how many technology providers? Okay, quite a few. Okay, great. Excellent. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about a new trend that's happening, which is what I called conversational commerce. And people have been hearing about it. People have been hearing different things of what conversational commerce is, voice-powered, conversations that leads to payments, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to share a little bit more with you regarding the trends of this movement that's happening right now, which is really a traditional e-commerce for the last 2 decades that is focused on the attention economy. So when I say the attention economy, I mean, how do I get you to spend more time on your social media ad? How do I get your data, segment you, and sell you more ad or send you more spam? So there's a segment and a tremendous amount of energy and effort that's gone towards the attention economy. And for e-commerce, we're talking about traditionally self-service. It's about menu-driven, get you on the IVR if you're on a phone call. If you're on an app, it's about self-service menus or on a website. And how do you service yourself? Where we're moving towards is the relationship economy, driven by conversational commerce. So you see the word C-commerce. So there's e-commerce and C-commerce. So C-commerce is really much more about having requests, whether you text it, whether you speak it. And it's about having concierge service on the other side that is both human as well as AI. It can't be just bots. We can't be just talking about bots. And it's not just discrete channels where you have very fragmented way of reaching a business, whether it's on a phone call on one side, the web is on another side, a separate group is doing chats, a separate group is sending out emails and responding to emails. These are very fragmented, disparate channels. But going towards an omni-channel way where all of these different channels actually funnel into a group that's designed to train to how to respond to you and serve you and make you feel special. That's what relationships are all about. In fact, relationships are making a difference right now. And I'll show you why and what that means. When you look at these two companies, they're in very mature industries. T-Mobile is competing with Verizon, AT&T, Sprint. But the only differentiation that they're truly making is in relationships. No more robots. Their team of experts are answering your phone calls, and they're well-trained to serve you. And for that, they're rewarded. They just set another record. While everybody is shrinking, they're now hitting records last quarter, if you saw the last quarter's report. And Chewy, how many of you guys know about Chewy? Okay. So we're talking a little guy that's fighting Goliath. It's beating Amazon in its own game. And why? Because it trains its customer service reps to service you within 3 rings, no robots, no IVRs. It's all personalized service. It's beating Amazon when their prices are actually higher than Amazon prices. So it's not just about price. It's about relationships. And how do you build relationships? Conversations. You got to have better conversations. How about building relationships with better payment experiences? That's another way to do it. For those of you guys who are not familiar with WeChat, this is basically a messaging solution that has now combined with payments in China that has now gone from basically the last 4 years, zero practically, to about $9 trillion. Mobile payments is so pervasive in China right now that not only the dumpling stands are accepting mobile payments for the dumplings, but beggars are literally putting up a little sign that say, scan my QR code and give me some money. So the level of convenience, when you put it into even seamless Uber or Lyft, it's hiding behind the scenes, but it's about how do you bring that level of experience to the forefront. Question for you guys, how many of you have received an email that says, apply for Apple Pay or Apple Card? Okay, that's a lot of people. Especially if you have an iPhone, you probably received one of those emails. And when you actually go in to look at how easy they make it for you, they make it super simple. Not only how you get the card, how you load the cards, how it's in front, how easy it is to pay, but also for customer service, it's one tap away to message customer service. They want to have conversations with you, and they want to make that payment frictionless. So how are you, as an organization, going to compete, and what does the customers expect today? Well, customers today expect easier, safer, more personalized conversations and commerce experiences. So that means omni-channel personalized, not fragmented, voice-powered solution in addition to text, human plus AI, because we know that in Alexa land, 1% of skills are used 99% of the time, even though there's over 80,000 skills. You can't have a strategy based on that. You have to have people understand what you're asking for. And when you're ready to make a payment, make it really easy. And yes, there needs to be a universal wallet that's tied in behind it so that it can be very convenient. And yes, you should be able to opt out to spam. So with that said, here's the US actual experience that we're seeing today, which is the biggest messaging app, despite having various types of WeChat, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, et cetera, et cetera. The most common messaging app is still what? Our text messenger. And we're texting even when we're not supposed to, which is downright dangerous. When we call customer service, usually you're stuck on hold and you're going through a bunch of menus, and it's frustrating. And when we're doing payments, we're still giving out our static card numbers that gets hacked. I just had to replace my Bank of America card this morning because I found two fraudulent charges my wife told me about. Well, unfortunately, that's the state of where we are. So, with that said, what we have done at OV Loop is to create a omni-channel, universal conversational commerce platform. It's a tool for businesses to be able to better service, engage, and transact with customers. And I'll tell you about the three different components that makes up for it. But the user experience for consumers, it's about having one tap or completely hands-free messaging and payment experience. Doesn't matter whether it's through your phone, your tablet, your PC, or even payable and hearable IoT devices. It should be omni-channel. So that's the level of experience that we're driving towards, and I'll get into that in a minute. But before I do, I'm going to talk a little bit about the landscape of the battleground. Everybody actually wants to go to the upper right-hand corner where messaging and payments converge to that level of convenience and experience. But we got to look at the 4 attributes of what makes a successful player that can move up to the right, like what WeChat has done. So if you look at how they're positioned right now, the 4 attributes stack up like this. On the upper left-hand quadrant is about user base. So all the major tech giants have user base. However, not everybody is device agnostic. So if you're Google or Android, that's device specific. And if you're a business, you want to be able to service all your customers, not just one part. And when you service your customers, you service them through all kinds of channels, whether it's phone calls, emails, websites, apps, and so forth. So if you want to service them with better messaging and payments, You can't do it today with these other players because they want you to be servicing through Facebook Messenger or iPhone Messenger rather than through your phone call centers, websites, and apps. So that's a downfall still from a channel, business channel perspective. And finally, from a payment method perspective, there is unfortunately still no universal wallet that works everywhere, physical and remote, and services different tender types, credit card, ACH, and even what's coming with RTP. No one is there yet. So that's why no one is on the upper right-hand corner. But everybody wants to get there. And what happens if they get there first? If they get there first, if you're a financial institution, you're probably going to be facing disintermediation. If you're an enterprise or a business, you're probably going to have your data being held somewhere else other than where you are. And you probably won't have the kind of relationship that you would like, which is a direct relationship with your customers. So what's the solution? And why is OV creating a platform to be able to service the upper right-hand corner? It's because we are trying to bring financial institutions, consumers, and merchants all into the same ecosystem with technology that levels the playing field. We want to level the playing field. It can't be just with the tech giants. So what we have done is created a device agnostic, a channel agnostic, and a payment method agnostic platform so that anybody that has their own customers can use this platform to communicate and transact with their customers on a level playing field and to build better relationships. And that's the foundation of conversational commerce. So how can we provide this platform to enable your conversational commerce strategy? If you're going to have a C-commerce strategy on top of your e-commerce strategy, you need these tools. And the three tools and three legs of the stool has to be there or else there's no combustion. It's just like gunpowder. If you're missing one ingredient, you can have carbon, sulfur, but if you're missing nitric oxide, you won't have combustion. So this is why we put together and spent enormous effort to merge. I merged 4 different companies that have the right technology and innovation to build these pieces. Now I'm going to talk about these 3 pieces. The first one is an omni-channel messaging platform that uses the power of voice and text and goes across multiple ways of getting messages across. The second one is about having messaging with payments. And the third one is about a universal wallet that can feed in to messaging and payments. So let's start with the first and talk about the omni-channel conversational commerce messaging platform. So what made this messaging solution better than all the other solutions that are out there is because we created what's called a multi-mode messaging platform that's designed for conversational commerce. Normally, when you go into a messaging platform, you can type, right? You can only type. And you might even have a little microphone button that says, use your voice. But hardly anybody uses it because it's single mode. Only text goes out there. So when only text goes out there, you have to speak very carefully. You have to correct mistakes. And it's such a hassle, then pretty soon you give up on it. And that's the state of where we are. So we invented a one-tap and hands-free voice with text simultaneously. So when you click that little button on the bottom middle, voice and text goes out simultaneously. Now, why is that important? It's so simple. Such a simple invention. Just like the MST, fooling the magnetic stripe and transmitting a token is so simple. But that little patent allows us to basically have the consumer speak anytime that they want to and freely speak without worrying about correcting mistakes because there's always a voice file on the other side. So the recipient can always read it if they're in a meeting. They can hear it if they're driving. They can even answer completely hands-free without opening up their app. And if your customer service agent will be able to not only see the text and maybe have the AI translate and answer the simple questions, but if there's any doubt, you press that play button, and I can tell the difference whether the customer says, "That's great customer service," or "That's great customer service." So servicing and that relationship and the intimacy of having voice and text simultaneously is very powerful. But going beyond one tap and hands-free voice with text, it's about adding images, videos. One of our clients right now is one of the largest ticket distributors. 44% of their sales come from the phone. And having to describe where row 17, seat 3 is in a stadium is very hard. Rather than sending you a picture, letting you expand, letting you take your time to choose the seat, could be a product, right? And then having a buy now button to be able to make that transaction happen with your wallet much faster. That is now multi-mode conversational commerce. And how about being able to do this all without having to have an app and having been able to come through any of your existing channels, whether it's a phone call that we can redirect from an IVR. If you don't want to wait on hold for the next 5 minutes, press 1 to chat with one of our customer service agents now. You press 1, a link comes up to you. You click on that link in that chat, including all the chat history with images, voice, video, text, and message pay, all bundled, can be right there. And when I send you a text message or an email, that link can tie into an omni-channel chat. And the same thing with that chat button that is on your website. Instead of having somebody typing there, and by the way, if I'm on a mobile device, I'm not going to be sitting there having a conversation with customer service using my thumbs. It's just too painful. But having the power of voice, text, images is that much easier. So we can embed it in all of your existing channels and convert those into omni-channel conversational commerce with the same agents that's being trained on the other side. And when you train these agents, what do? You empower them to go from a single mode, voice-only customer engagement with one conversation at a time, to looking on the right-hand side here, you can have multiple conversations at the same time, and you can have multiple modes of expression, and complete the transactions at the same time. So much higher customer satisfaction, more concurrent sessions, saving capital and money, and it's very easy for the enterprise to adopt because what are you replacing? You're replacing sound. So it's the same CRM system that you have. You don't have to reintegrate into your existing system. You're basically taking one and split screen to be able to help. So this kind of an omni-channel solution works on phone calls, works on websites, as you can see, turning that web chat into an omni-channel multi-mode. Same thing on the application side on mobile or mobile web. So Motorola is one of our early customers, and within the last quarter and a half, they have taken customer service experience in CSAT from basically raising it 25 percentage points, which is huge. They decreased customer response time by 28 seconds. And if I'm just going to pause for 28 seconds, that's a long time for a customer to wait. And then 29% of their phone calls have been converted into OV concierge experience. So beyond concierge experience, how about being able to complete a transaction using messaging and payments? And this is what we've done. We've created an omni-channel request for payment platform that allows a customer service agent to send out a request or a chat agent to send out a request for payments without having to take your 16-digit online. And being PCI compliant, faster, easier, letting the customer take its own time rather than waiting and waiting. And not only that, but being able to do outbound bill payments in the same way. Now, if I do an outbound bill payment, when I get an email or a text, when I click on that link, I am going back to the traditional e-commerce world of self-service. I'm logging in, I'm finding my bills, I'm going through that process, and when I see something wrong with my bill, guess what I'm doing? Picking up the phone, calling. So, not a great experience. How about having your bill right there presented to you? Not only that, if you want to pay, use your universal wallet to pay. Store, doesn't matter whether it's your credit card, your debit card, your ACH account for bill payment, or we're even working with companies like PayFi to get RTP involved as that comes. So we're agnostic of channel, agnostic of the kind of phone that you use, and agnostic of the channels that it comes from. So with that, making payment much simpler across all billers and all merchants. Now, if you wanted to chat, of course, that chat button should be right there. Much like Apple Card is offering, except much better. You don't have to text it. You can voice it. So, when you compare OV Concierge with OV Message Pay and adding those two together, and you come from omni-channel direction, you can see it's much better than Apple Business Chat or Facebook Messenger Chat because it does not require you to go through that channel. When was the last time somebody says, well, I'm going to go to my Messenger and find my bank? Probably not very often. But if I call and I get an option to chat like this, or if I'm on a website self-servicing and I need to answer a question, Concierge is way better. And having that message pay to tie along with it, it's also way better. Device agnostic, channel agnostic. And so this is one of the reasons why some of the biggest organizations and contact centers are now working with us, because they know conversational commerce is coming. They already have the customers that are some of the biggest call centers in the world. So working with them to get into and scaling conversational commerce is exactly what we're doing. Now I'm going to talk about payments. So this is an area that we're combining not only messaging and messaging with payments, but a universal wallet. How does a universal wallet that is agnostic of financial institutions and agnostic of giving a level playing field to both enterprises, merchants, and financial institutions? This is exactly what we built. We did not want to tie into an operating system. It has to be iOS, Android, PCs, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you pay with web, in-app, in-chat, online. And we want you to be able to load all your payment cards. We want you to be able to load your bank accounts. We want you to be able to pay bills and pay people, load your membership cards, even your credentials and passwords. We're still dealing with passwords today that's, we're trying to keep track of for online login. Now, when it comes to payment, we want to be able to let you use your phone to pay. So we acquired a company called SimplyTap, if you remember, a few years ago. And SimplyTap invented the HCE, host card emulation, for tap and pay with NFC. And now that's part of our solution so that we can actually give you a tap and pay on your phone, whether you're an Android or an iOS. So we don't care. You can have tap and pay right there. But we went one step further because we know that NFC is not accepted everywhere, especially at restaurants, in places like Walmart, Kroger, and all the other places that are not accepting NFC today. So with the last solution that I brought to Samsung Pay, which is called the MST, we actually are delivering an OV Valet solution, a IoT payment card that's better than the Apple Card. It's actually a smart device that's connected to your phone, and this is called the OV Valet. And what the OV Valet does is the OV Valet allows you to store as many cards as you want from any institution, whether they're merchant-sponsored institutions with their private label cards or they're financial institutions with their credit and debit cards. We don't care. You can store as many cards on the Valet as you want. You can assign a primary card and secondary card, and you can switch those at any given time. When you push once this button, the green light shows up, and that's your primary card. When you push the button twice, the red light shows up, and that's your secondary card. So, and by the way, when you press it 3 times, it rings your phone. Because it's like a tile device that helps you find your phone. Sometimes I need that. Press it again and stops. And I can go into my app and then find my keys as well, because it's an IoT connected device. And if you can't find it, it'll tell you exactly where it got disconnected the last time it was connected to your phone. Oh, okay, I ate at Capitol Grill last night, and let me go and suspend the cards. And I can suspend the cards all at once. And once I get it back, I can unsuspend it. And the best of all, every single transaction here, by the way, you don't see any card numbers here. It can't be skimmed. It can't be swiped. It can't be sniffed by an NFC reader, because the only time it transmits is when you push the button. And when I press this button, it's a token every single time. So even if the POS gets compromised, they can't, I don't have to replace this token. So unlike the Apple Card, by the way, which is a beautiful titanium card, which costs $80 to produce, and when that card gets taken back and it gets skimmed by some waiter or compromised by some POS, that has to get replaced. This never has to get replaced. So that's the beauty of this kind of an IoT device that's a token. And by the way, this is a quarter of the price of that Apple Card. So what can you as a financial institution do to give these away? Or we even have sports teams that are saying, hey, I want to brand this and give these to my best customers and have a tap and pay experience everywhere and bridge a relationship between us and those customers and be able to have them be able to one tap reach me for my stadium, my sports team, etc. So this is brandable by anybody. Certainly, and if you create a tap and pay experience in the United States with the rails that have already been laid, because this works at 93% of existing point of sale, you now can create what's called the octopus effect. Now you were asking, what's the octopus effect? On the right-hand corner, this little device is called the octopus card. That is the tap and pay device in Hong Kong. There are more octopus cards in Hong Kong than there are citizens. Started out in transit, then it went to 7-Elevens, then it went everywhere. So when the acceptance level got high, people started tapping and paying everywhere. And what does that do is it created a moat so that if you go to Hong Kong today, everybody's still using octopus. Even though everyone in Hong Kong uses WeChat as often as the people across the border in Shenzhen and the rest of China, when it comes to competing against WeChat Pay, tap and pay is just simply easier than pulling out your phone, scanning a QR code, entering your PIN code, and hitting send. So that was the moat. This is the opportunity that we offer anyone that wants to create a tap and pay experience and a tap and pay habits with their customer base. Whether they're a retail customer base or a financial institution customer base, we don't care. Just put this together and you can see the results. We did a trial with this last year with one of the top 5 banks in the world. And through that trial, 1,000 customers and 1,000 employees used OV Valet. Just OV Valet, not the rest of the OV concierge solution and message pay. But just with OV Valet, they were able to increase their spend habits. 28% of these became super users. That means 24 or more transactions per month on average. And 70% of their spend was actually on places like supermarkets and restaurants, which most of them don't accept NFC. So after they've done 3 months of this, 87% of them preferred it over cash or plastic. And when we did a survey, they actually loved the smart keychain device. So with that said, however you want to brand the device, the great news is that the app and the device in combination with this IoT device provides a habit that you can start giving to your customer base, which is better than the Apple Card and the Apple Wallet solution, and that levels the playing field, that will not put one card in front of the other. It's a consumer choice. So how can you give consumer their own choice in a universal wallet that is agnostic? And that's effectively what we're doing. iOS, Android, Bluetooth connected, never having to replace the card, and provide that one tap to customer service relationship and conversation that they deserve. So when you look at all 3 pieces combined, any one piece by itself is not enough. But combining all 3 of them gives you that omni-channel conversational commerce experience. So I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions that you guys might have to what the C-commerce strategy and C-commerce platform is all about. So, question?
I had a question relating to the user experience, right? So when you're talking about tap to pay, and you can, the user has to power with this card, right? That they want. Is there like primary and secondary, or like So if I were to go to a gas station, I don't want to pay with my debit card. I'd rather pay with my credit card just in case if it gets skimmed. Versus if I go to maybe Kroger and I'm like, you know what, I want to take this specifically out of my my debit card, right? So it comes out of my checking account. With your solution, does the user have an easy way to switch between the types of payment that they're making?
Absolutely. So the user has the app to be able to set the primary and the secondary that we talked about earlier, and you can switch that at any time. But as long as I usually have, a personal account and a business account that I use it. So as long as I remember one tap is personal, two taps is business, I can get by without even accessing the app for quite some time. And if I have more than that choice, I can easily go into the app, hit a button, and hit one button here to say make this primary. That's all. Now, this communicated with the valet, tells the valet this is now the primary. So very easy to switch. Another question? Great question. So as you can see, we have three different offerings out there. For our concierge and message pay, we're going through larger distribution channels like Cisco, Avaya, that are going to those who have large call centers and enterprises. And then we're going direct to some enterprises and merchants ourselves. And of course, some of the bigger banks, we're going through and talking to them directly because it's easier to have those relationships. And then for the smaller banks, we're going through like ICBA, the commercial, the organization. What does ICBA stands for now? Yeah, Independent Community Bank Association. In fact, we got our first bank that signed up from that group with us that wants to launch with us in Q1. So there's a variety of distribution channels that we're going after to reach either the businesses or the financial institutions. Question?
So I think Loop Pay was bought by Samsung. Obviously, Apple's not going to want it, and Google's not going to want it. So is Samsung in the background there, and is this kind of mechanism for the things to use on Apple and Google devices, and kind of is Samsung in the background there?
So what we have is we have a commercial relationship with Samsung, but we're independent from Samsung or Google or Apple. And our devices and capabilities and app will work across all three. And by the way, we also don't require you to have an app in order to experience concierge and message pay. That means, if you get the valet, of course, you got to download the app on either Google Play or the App Store. But for the concierge experience and the message pay experience, it's all HTML5. So you don't even need an app at all. Another question? All right. Well, I'll be around. If you guys ever want to see a demo, I'll be around the next couple of days and look forward to meeting some of you.